So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the executive, another one held away from County Hall here in Bellevue Mills in Skipton. I'm going to do the first couple of items on the agenda as normal, and then we're going to have a presentation on the Transforming City Fund work that's being done to do the Skipton Station Gateway. So, can I just note any apologies? Have we any apologies? Perhaps none from the executive. And can I welcome Subhash in the room with us? Good morning, Subhash. And I believe Liz Colling and Janet Jefferson are online. And yes, I can see them moving. I think there's also Neil Swanwick there, is there? And Councillor Haslam. Meeting on the 16th of September. I'm seeing nods around the table. And can I ask, are there any declarations of interest we need to note this morning? So that there are none, and I understand there's no public questions. So with that, can I now come to Alex Richards, please, to do a presentation to us. I think it's going to be on screen as well, about Skipton Station Gateway. Over to you, Alex, please.
Today I will be talking about Skipton Station Gateway. Just get my presentation up. Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, yeah, so today I'll be talking about the Transforming Cities Fund, in particular in Skipton. We have 3 projects across North Yorkshire: Skipton, Selby and Harrogate. Skipton is the first out of the blocks, so to speak, and commenced in April of this year. And I'm very pleased to say it's going really well, and we're now nearing completion. So it's a really good time to update members on what's been happening. Just to take you back a step, though, the Transforming Cities Fund is a major programme of infrastructure investment which aims to provide modal shift, essentially, alternatives to private car travel within our towns and cities. In Skipton, in particular, it's a £7.8 million scheme funded by North Yorkshire Council and the Department for Transport. And in particular here, it comprises of a series of improvements to improve public spaces, pedestrian, walking, cycling facilities. This phase, we call it phase 1 of the TCF programme, is being delivered by North Yorkshire Highways, and I'll talk briefly about future phases that we're considering at the moment. So it's being delivered by North Yorkshire Highways, and in particular, it's here to help people choose more sustainable transport options and to better connect the town of Skipton to public transport. In Skipton in particular, the TCF programme is essentially in what I would call 3 elements. So starting with the canal footpath, on a stretch between Goreflat Bridge and the Auction Mart, we are resurfacing 1.1 kilometres of existing public footpath between the Craven Auction Mart, the college campus and Craven Leisure Centre, and a new footway which will create opportunities for a circular walk in and around Airville Park. This is the section of Skipton we're talking about. You can see on the map here. And to the east is Goreflat Bridge. To the west is the Auction Mart, Airville Park being this area, and the Leisure Centre, Craven Leisure, being this building to the north. And this yellow line, the yellow lines you can see here, are the improvements we've undertaken. You can see when we started the scheme, the state of the footpath in that area through these images. On the left of the screen, it was very muddy, inaccessible, obviously, to various modes of transport. Through 90% of the year, you had to wear wellies to get along this site. However, through a series of investments, through undertaking path widening, vegetation clearance, which is sympathetic to the natural environment, and installing this flexible path, we've enabled access to and from these key sites from the town towards the auction mart and the leisure centre. And I'm reliably informed that the path is being heavily used at the moment. It has been a real success for the town. The second element of the Skipton scheme is better connecting the rail and bus stations, and in particular undertaking walks along the areas of Black Walk, Carlton Street and Gas Street. Starting in the area of Black Walk, which you can see circled there, this is a footpath which connects the railway station onwards towards the bus station. As you can see, when we started on site, the state of the footpath was poor. There was ponding, uneven surfacing, vegetation encroaching into the footpath, which obviously collected litter regularly, and was in a poor state of repair. It wasn't very inviting route into the town. However, through the TCF scheme, we've managed to regulate that footpath, install new surfacing, and we now have a far more inviting and accessible route to and from the station and in towards the centre of town. We then move into Carlton Street and the junction between Black Walk and Carlton Street, where the scheme aims to improve the pedestrian experience in crossing that area and moving onwards towards the bus station, which is to the north of this image here. And you can see here some of the infrastructure that was in place prior to the scheme, a small crossing area in this location here, which needed improvement to make it more accessible for pedestrians and more legible. A reduction in the width of some of these highways in order to make crossing the road safer. And in time, we will be installing this pedestrian crossing across the highway as well. But to date, we've undertaken works to improve and increase the size of this pedestrian island and protect users from traffic and give them a more usable space in which to traverse that crossing. And we've also undertaken footpath widening in the area of this junction as well to make that area more usable for the pedestrian. Moving on through the scheme, we're now looking at Carlton Street itself, which you can see through these images, these historic images, very narrow footpaths, not necessarily very accessible to all pedestrian users, and parking encroaching on both sides of the street, making traversing this area less than ideal for users other than car users. But through this investment, we've undertaken investment in footpath widening using a palette of high quality materials throughout the scheme. And you can see there, very near reaching completion in undertaking those works to both sides of the highway, improving the street scene, and all parking will now be limited to the southern side of this section of the highway, making it more usable and legible for the pedestrian user. Moving on through the scheme, we're now into the works which are now being undertaken during November. And these are the works to the Gas Street area. Again, here's a historic image of the site, extremely narrow footpaths, a standard palette of highway materials being used in this area historically, aiming to raise the quality of the built environment and improve the pedestrian experience there. The North Yorkshire Highways team are currently undertaking works to treat that area. You can also see in the distance an image on the left, the Gallows Bridge, which we are also undertaking works to improve. So Gallows Bridge itself and the works there will, well, the Gallows Bridge has been reaching the end of its serviceable life. It's not particularly accessible, very steep steps to access and leave the bridge itself for pedestrians. And this scheme seeks to invest in a new bridge and improve the accessibility for pedestrians and users who wish to access the bus station or leave the bus station and move into the town. So works are being undertaken to improve the existing masonry, abutments and steps in that area and replace the bridge in its entirety. The aesthetic of that bridge is to reflect not the bridge you can see on screen now, but the historic bridge which was previously there, constructed of timber with diagonal cross pieces as its design feature. But there's an image of the existing bridge over the canal. You can now see an image of what is proposed as its replacement. And there, this is currently the state of works at the moment. The canal, the footbridge is currently under a closure. With the bridge being lifted off, works will be undertaken to the walls and parapets to decrease the steepness of the steps and extend those steps further out. In doing so, reduce the height of the parapet walls, introduce handrails to both sides of the bridge, and make it more accessible to all users. Here we see a picture of the bridge in fabrication at the moment, and there will be an opportunity for members to go out to the factory once we've undertaken a little more fabrication to go and see the structure before it's lifted into place. And there will be an invite going out if any members are interested in attending that. Here's a slide that you probably don't have in your pack, which I've just added in. Exciting breaking news. So here's the contractor yesterday who turned up on site to lift the bridge out of situ. There it is being lifted out last night successfully. It didn't crumble when we lifted it and fall into the canal, thankfully. And there's proof of it being driven away late last night. So during this period, whilst the bridge is removed, the works will be undertaken to the stonework and the intention, the new bridge being delivered to site in the next 4 to 6 weeks and installed. So very briefly, the programme is as follows. In terms of highways works, we'll undertake the completion of the works to Gas Street, and then we'll return to undertake the resurfacing of all the highways that we've been involved in, undertake the signing, lining, and any remedial works which require undertaking. And in terms of the Gallows Bridge, we've talked about, we lifted it off successfully last night, works undertaken during November, and by the 15th of December, we hope to have the bridge installed and reopened and all works complete. The project remains well within programme and to date within budget. Very briefly, I'll just remind you that we were talking there about phase 1 of Skipton Station Gateway. We've had an opportunity to look at the second phase of development for the Skipton area, and in particular, improvements at the rail station itself. Circa £2.5 million has been notionally allocated from the local transport fund, from the combined authority, for improvements to Skipton Station. In summary, we're currently working with Network Rail to try and work through a scheme where we can improve the visitor and user experience at Skipton Station at the moment. We intend to bring those proposals forward, present them to yourselves and to the combined authority by April of next year. Thank you very much.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much for that presentation. Good to see the amount of investment coming into Skipton. Would anybody like to make a comment? Simon, please.
They are working, that's great. Yeah, no, really good to hear of the progress, and of course we see it as well, those of us who spend a lot of time in Skipton. Just for colleagues who won't know, one of the really important benefits is the connectivity across Airville Park, not only with our leisure centre and the park itself, but there are 5 schools on Gargrave Road. There's the academy on the far edge of Airville Park, and the Girls' High School and Ermisted's Grammar School. Many of those children, young people, use the train, and this provides safe, dry access for them, and it takes them off narrow pavements and busy roads. So that was part of our desire when we dreamt up this scheme some years ago. So it's to be welcomed on many fronts. We were always slightly disappointed we couldn't have a slightly more accessible. Well, we have a more accessible Gallows Bridge, but it's not perfectly accessible. But I think it's very important we always bear in mind the Skipton master plan we developed, which would see the development of the Cavendish Street car park, which would then allow better access to that bridge. So that's something for the future, and no doubt different councils to look at. But it really is to be welcomed. What's happened, it has greatly improved public accessibility to the railway station.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, and thank you very much for the presentation. I think it's been really illustrative this morning for those of us who actually aren't based at this side of the county to see those improvements. I think it's quite transformational what's been delivered here for Skipton, and full credit to the team. We're on budget, we're on schedule, and the massive improvements I think has been widely welcomed, I'm told, by local members, by all the local community. So I think it's a great project that we've delivered. There's more to come. This isn't the end of it. There's more improvements to come. So I think it's really to be celebrated that we've had a real success here, and thank you for your team and everybody who's delivered on that.
Thank you, Malcolm. Anybody else want to come in? Heather, please.
Thank you, Leader. Alex, great to see you. He's one of our success stories from Scarborough, along with a couple of other people in it. But it is nice to see, because we see transferring the city's fund being mooted, and there's been delays in other projects, and it's lovely to see some actual tarmac going down, or nice stone actually that Skipton. That looks really good. And I'd like to see a suitable standard of work in the next few years in our other projects, because I know Selby is going to be there soon, but obviously Harrogate has had its issues, but it does give me some hope that we can actually work well and actually get things that actually make people's lives better. So I'm very, very reassured by this. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Anybody else want to come in? No? Okay. So, Alex, once again, thank you for that presentation. It's good to see what we're spending our money on in Skipton. Okay, let's go back to the main agenda, please. Can I welcome Councillor David Ireton to the meeting? Morning, David. We'll go to item 5, please, the Scarborough Plan for Neighbourhoods. And can I come to you, Mark, please, to introduce it?
Thank you. Pleasure to introduce this report today. The new Scarborough Neighbourhood Board I sit on, along with Councillor Collins, who I know is joining us online today. The government announced earlier this year that it would have a new policy around levelling up for certain towns across the UK. Scarborough is, I think, the only one in North Yorkshire that was selected, but it means good news for Scarborough. There's significant sums of money coming in there. The plan has to be done by the end of this month. We are on course for doing that, and the Neighbourhood Board meets next Friday to sign that off and agree what we're doing. Today, what we are really opting to do is to accept the money from the government, which totals almost £6.5 million. So report is in front of members, happy to answer any questions and listen to comments. But this is a positive news story for Scarborough, with this money coming in from the government, and I'm sure there's many projects in Scarborough that will benefit as a result of it, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Mark. Can I open it up to any discussion, any comments now? Councillor Jefferson, please.
Sorry, can you hear me? Thank you, Leader. Yes, I welcome this. I think it's really good that 20 million or 19.5 million is coming to the Scarborough area, and especially as I do represent one of the 3 listed deprived areas. I think it's wonderful what's happening. The main thing to me is when you look at page 39 is cohesion and bringing the communities together, which I think will be really good, that we can bring both all age groups together to discuss what they want to see happening within our town. And I think that's an opportunity for everybody. I attended one of the presentations at Scarborough Castle and put my little discs in the box. And I look forward to being involved with it and getting the community involved. And I know I should have said I'm president of Chamber of Trade. I also chair my local Castle Ward tenants and residents and Eastborough traders, and we're all looking forward to putting small bids in to try and help our high street, which is very important, and also community adventure for everyone, really. I think it's really good to put on the map. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. I mean, there wasn't any questions in there, Mark. Did you want to respond
no, I don't
to
think
it?
there isn't any questions. I mean, I just think ask him a question then. We're welcoming this.
Sorry, Janet. I was just saying that as a statement. I wasn't saying that you had to ask a question.
Well, that's fine, Leader. I won't ask a question because I can put a question to anybody, can't I? Thank you very much. Okay.
Mark, was there anything you wanted to respond to?
Just welcome Councillor Jefferson's comments.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Colling, you're next, please, Liz.
Thank you, Leader. And I too don't have a question. There's just a few items in the report I'd like to stress to members, and that is that the responsibility for the actual solutions to some of the problems that Scarborough suffers will be made by the Neighbourhood Board. And it was a little misleading in the press release, and I've had a number of residents think that it's North Yorkshire that makes those decisions. I'd like to stress that it's not. I'd like to stress, please, that we've done an amazing amount of community engagement. I'd like to place on record my thanks to all the teams across the council and other organisations who supported us with that. It's the biggest community engagement we've ever done. So we've got a very clear guide from the community about the problems they'd like to see addressed. The challenge, as always, is what interventions can we afford to pay for that would help address those problems. And as Councillor Crane has said, that work is underway, and we do have to submit this plan by the 28th of November. The details of the community engagement are, are in Appendix 4. And then I'd just like to end on a positive. And the money that we're having now is the first tranche of the money. It comes in 3 sections, so we will have further investment opportunities in 3031 and 3334. Couldn't agree with anybody more. It's good news for Scarborough. Our challenge is to make that bang for the buck really work for our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Mark, did you want to respond to anything that Liz has said?
Well, I'm sorry that the press release wasn't clear enough. North Yorkshire is the accountable body, but the Neighbourhood Board is the one making the decisions. And just to be clear to members, that one of the things that happens because we're the accountable body is that the time and effort our officers are spending on this is repaid via this money from the government. So it's not costing us money. But the accountable body, but the decisions are made by the Neighbourhood Board. So Councillor Collins is correct, and welcome her comments.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And as you said, the key decision for us today is whether we accept the money from government or not. Have we got anybody else around the table who wants to make a contribution? If not, Mark, would you like to move the recommendation? Okay, is that seconded? Yeah, thank you, Malcolm. Can I have a show of hands, please, to accept the government money? Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you. And now move on to agenda item 6, which is the call for sites, proposed submissions for council-owned sites. As this is dealing with articles of corporate value, I'm going to come to Gareth, please, to introduce it.
Thank you, Carl. I'm going to proceed on the basis that people have read the report, and I'm just going to make 1 or 2 points when speaking to it. I think firstly, we have a corporate duty to maximise the return on all of our assets as North Yorkshire Council. In this case, we're talking about capital returns or potential capital returns. If we are successful in getting any of these bits of land through the process, that capital return will fund improvements in both our internal infrastructure and also help fund our future capital programme. I stress though, and I think I feel as though I should stress this, this is a corporate decision. The land may be suitable and it may actually help with the bombshell, and I do call it a bombshell, of the housing targets that have recently been imposed on us by central government. Housing targets, I may add, that are out of kilter with those targets decreasing in many areas of that endured by some of our city areas within the UK. The local plan process will deal with the suitability or not of these sites. The time to support or object to individual sites is through that process, not now. We are not sat here today taking a decision on the suitability of any individual site. That is for later consideration. I'm proposing this due to a financial capital driver, and the process of elimination will be taken by colleagues and ultimately the wider membership of this authority. It's like, in effect, a Chinese wall between the planning process and us with a corporate financial responsibility. We know that, and I'm absolutely certain, the only thing I am certain about is that not every individual site will end up as part of our local plan to satisfy the housing targets. Many will fall by, I'm sure, for legitimate reasons. I've nothing else to add, Leader, but I think we've been open and transparent about this. I do know that individual local members, where there is sites up for consideration, I stress consideration, have been informed where those sites are within their division. So I don't think we could have been more open and transparent about it.
Yeah, thank you, Gareth. We're joined by Stuart Brown, who's our strategic land manager. Stuart, I'll ask you if there's anything that you want to add to Gareth's introduction in a moment, but I think, Barry, you want to give us a piece of legal advice.
Thank you, Chair. So the report does state, with regards to during this process, the council will act as the landowner and also act as the planning authority. And Appendix B states how the council will handle any potential conflicts of interest. Today, the executive, you are acting as the landowner and submitting schemes for the local plan. When the local plan will be eventually considered by full council, members of the executive will need to keep an open mind and consider what the local plan states at the appropriate time and whether it's suitable, as Gareth Dad has stated. So unless members tell me anything different, councillors today have no personal interest in the land that's being submitted going forward and have no financial gain. This is just about the council acting as a landowner, submitting sites for the plan.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Stuart, is there anything that you wanted to add to Councillor Dad's introduction?
Sorry, thank you. Just to reinforce the point here that we recognise that the sensitive nature potentially of development sites on communities and neighbours, and in recognition of this, as already stated, we've tried to be as transparent as possible. I've personally contacted around about 60 members and parish councils, stroke town councils. The overall feedback from that exercise has actually been broadly positive. Members have certainly been appreciated, have been appreciated, being kept informed, and that's it really. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. We'll now open it up for any discussion. Simon, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I think sometimes it's perhaps a little difficult for the public to realise that we sit here wearing wearing different hats. As members of the executive, we have a responsibility to our residents to manage their assets to the best of our ability. And consequently, this has led to the submission of council-owned sites to the local plan. But we are also individually local members who represent communities. And so whilst I absolutely support the submission of all these sites, as Stuart already knows, I have very strong views about one of the sites in my ward, but I don't think that's inconsistent. I think it's perfectly right that with our corporate hat on, we submit these sites, but how we feed in to the local plan, what our views are on not just council-owned sites, but all sites, the consultation that will engage with the community in the preparation of the local plan gives everybody an opportunity to express their views, but there isn't a conflict for us wearing two different hats, and I certainly will be a very vociferous local member when it comes to the consideration of one of those sites.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Anybody else want to come in on this discussion? Subhash, would you like to come to the table, please?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about one of the sites which I would like you to withdraw from putting this forward. I appreciate with your landowner's hat on, but every landowner can also think about the community within which they function, and this would be one of them. The site I have in mind is Scorby School playing fields. It's currently used by Scorby School as a playing field, and if the concrete situation hadn't developed, would continue to be used as a playing field for the local community, for the school. During the school term, Scorby School uses it, but outside of school term, there are many, many groups that use those fields for recreation, for sports activity. And we all know how important it is to encourage young people to join that activity, to set in basis good habits as they grow older. The problem we will always have is that were we to leave it as a playing field when Scorby School gets knocked down, we would incur the cost of looking after it. Newby and Scorby Town Council have stated that they would be willing to take over the running and maintenance of that, so there would be no impact upon our revenue budget. Yes, we wouldn't be able to sell the site for capital, but these are judgments we all have to make, and we can't be separate those judgments just because we are the landowner. I would like you to consider removing that for at least further consultation amongst members and the local community as to how that site can go forward. The other fact is that once you move Scorby School to the Raincliffe site, which is currently used by many sports groups, that will vanish because that facility will just disappear. So my Newby will be faced with a double whammy of having an existing use disappearing and another potential use disappearing. And there really isn't anywhere in the local facility where this kind of facility can be replicated. I know there's a rugby club further down, but that is essentially for rugby. This would cater for football, and there is a dearth of activity where football teams can participate and take place. So please consider this. It's a little bit like
Subhash, could you just sort of wrap up now?
Last statements. It's a little bit like selling the crown jewels for scrap value, and I think we should always be careful of doing that. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, well, I think my short answer, but I'm going to come to Gareth to give a proper answer, is you're asking us to do exactly what we said we're not going to do this morning. So Gareth, would you like to answer?
Yeah, I think you summed it up in a sentence. I absolutely respect Councillor Subhash as one of the good guys here, but I think we can't get into debate about either planning considerations or usage of individual sites at this stage. That will come out in due course. There may well be legitimate reasons, planning or otherwise, for us not to take, or for the process not to have taken those sites forward. But today, isn't the time for us to debate that. And I think we've got to keep all our options open. I'll just add as well, given we've got 4,000 odd properties to build every year, that's our target. The more sites available in the mix, the better the options that we will have. Without, and I talk very broadly about the number of sites that we're submitting, without those, we're narrowing that field of vision towards options for homes, some of which may not be as palatable as some of the sites that we're offering. But it's, you know, let's not forget, this has been a bombshell dropped on us by central government, and every member within the authority could find a reason to oppose a local site. But that reason for opposition may well be strong or weak, but it's not for today.
Thank you, Gareth. Okay, anybody else want to come in with anything? No. In that case, Gareth, could I ask you that you move that recommendation, please? Okay, can I have a seconder? Simon, thank you. Okay, show of hands, please, those in favour. Thank you. Let's now move on to the next item, item 7, local planning enforcement plan. And Heather, I'm coming to you for this, please.
Thank you, Leader. This policy has been brought to you today for noting and feedback as a result of a great deal of work by our senior leadership team and our enforcement managers. It has been necessary to consolidate and standardise 7 different approaches on enforcement. Some areas were better at it than others, that's all I can say. This will bring reassurance that where an issue arises, it will be treated consistently for our 600,000 residents and 25 businesses within North Yorkshire. We need to be fair and we need to be equitable and proportionate in our response on enforcement. We have formed this plan with our mindfulness of our neighbouring authorities and our 2 national parks. This is important that we are consistent, as some of our communities are partially in the parks, and it's always been a contention with those communities that we do seem to have 2 very different regimes in place. We don't have this policy. It makes planning decisions very difficult. As one councillor from over this end said, enforcement meant that planning was like the Wild West or the lack of enforcement. So I don't want, Bill Hickey turning up in the Craven area again. So hopefully a proper considered policy will allow that to be reined in. There are 14 various guidelines and legislation involved in actually formulating this policy. So it's quite a technical document in some respects, but I hope it's not a long document and that people will engage with it, because it's important that members actually get to grips with this, because most of my inbox is regarding enforcement issues. Right. I hope that elected members and not just at our council, but in our town and parishes are able to do that. Because we cannot use enforcement to remedy what they might deem as poor planning decisions. That's not the policy's purpose. As I've used this phrase before, enforcement is a bit like the CPS. You may feel you have a good case, but it will not be progressed unless it meets the criteria. It has to be proportionate, and that has to be fair to people, because I'm afraid somebody's complaint about a 6-inch over on a fence is not going to be treated with much seriousness. We need to actually try and get to grips with those who are making a mockery of our planning decisions. So I would ask people to engage with this and come back with some feedback, because there may well be local niceties that haven't been quite grasped. And I know that some parts
Thank you, Heather. So we're being asked to note the report this morning and endorse that it goes to further consultation and engagement with not only our members, but also parish and town council members as well. So Simon, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Thank you, Heather. I wasn't so sure about your analogy with the Crown Prosecution Service, given the recent collapse of the Chinese spy trial and views people might have about that. I hope our enforcement officers are far better than the Crown Prosecution Service has demonstrated itself to be of late. But I really do welcome this. Enforcement is a discretionary service. It's not something we are legally obliged to do. But what we do know is it's incredibly important to our residents. So to have a cohesive cross-county approach to enforcement and to know that it's resourced is a really important step for the new council. It's also very important that people, including our members, are educated as to what is and what isn't possible. And as you say, it's not a fix-all for unpopular planning decisions. And there are criteria that must be met. And that actually the first step has always got to be an approach to compromise rather than confrontation. But I do welcome it. I think our residents will welcome this cohesive approach from North Yorkshire.
Thank you, Simon. Mark, please.
When Simon started talking about the CPS, I was panicking for my train home tonight, but it's okay. Like Simon, I think this is positive and good news, and it's right that we have a cohesive policy across the whole of North Yorkshire. I can honestly say it's one of the things that fills my inbox. And sometimes I think people have got a very good, strong case about something that has happened that should not have happened. And sometimes maybe not a strong case against something that should have happened. So it's right that we have a policy here. It's right that we work the same across the whole of North Yorkshire. And I hope we continue to take a robust approach to those who are absolutely flouting the planning laws of this authority and indeed the country. I'm not bothered about somebody building a house that's 6 inches too far west or east or whatever it is. But when somebody builds a house where they've absolutely no planning permission, I think we should be a lot more robust in that sort of thing. So it's positive today, strongly support it. Councillor Phillips, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Anybody else want to come in? Heather, would you like to move the recommendation, please? Okay, I'm sure it's seconded by Simon. So I'm looking around the room. Are we all in favour of endorsing this? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Let's move on then, please, to item 8. Making adopting of the Clapham cum Newby neighbourhood plan. Mark, I'm coming to you for this.
I always hesitate to say this, but I think this is a fairly straightforward item. And in an hour's time, when we're still discussing it, you'll remind me that I said that. A recent vote on the 18th of September, more than 50% of those voting supported it. So it's a plan that's in support of what was the Craven plan, and it's also in alignment with the local plan that's coming out in North Yorkshire. It will mean that in future any application in that area will be subject to looking at this as well as the other local plans that are around. It seems a positive thing. I did ask before it came to executive that the local member was consulted and was supportive. He's here today. I don't know if he's going to speak on it, but it seems to me to be a positive plan, a good thing, and I'm very happy to move it today, Chair.
Okay, I was going to say, did we need much discussion on this, because it seems to be the right thing to do and popular thing to do. But David, are you the local member? Would you like to say anything? Right, thank you. So can we just agree this, please? I don't think we need a show of hands, just nods around the room. Yep, it's the right thing to do. Thank you. Moving on then to item 9, a much bigger item, leisure investment strategy and options appraisal. Simon, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. I was told shortly before this meeting that it was implied that I may talk too much. So I'll try and curb my enthusiasm for what I view as a very exciting strategy for the new council. And although it pains me to say it, particularly as I sit in the hallowed ground of Craven District Council, it is one of the benefits of local government reorganisation and the capacity that the new council has to make this kind of commitment to the well-being of its residents. I'm hugely proud of what is being achieved by officers and staff in our active North Yorkshire centres. Our way of working, our view of how we can better the lives of our residents is, I think, a massive achievement and a departure from the view of leisure that, you know, I grew up with. And this is a chap who learned to swim in the old Airville baths here as a toddler. So to see our leisure centres transformed into a means for achieving better outcomes for all our residents, with a focus where we can on those areas where there are real health inequalities which exist in North Yorkshire. And I know I'll never tire of saying it, that you know, the difference in life expectancy between the richest parts of North Yorkshire and the poorest parts is, I think, 8.5 years. And that contrast exists within the town of Skipton, two of the most deprived areas in the country that register in the top 2% of most deprived areas are in Skipton. So to see our commitment in terms of strategy is something I can't thank the officers and staff enough for. And to see the commitment in terms of financial investment from the council is something I'm really, really proud of, because it's very easy to have nice words, but to back them with cash is hugely welcome. So that's me waxing lyrical, leader. The nitty gritty is in the report. We've discussed it internally many times. Of course, it's very pertinent to be announcing this in Skipton, where we hope to invest just short of £10 million in active North Yorkshire at Craven Leisure, transforming it into even more of a well-being hub. To do the same in Whitby, I know Whitby has been crying out for investment. To do it in Rydale and Pickering, which quite frankly has some of the least good facilities in the North Yorkshire family. To do it in Selby, where Selby Leisure plays such a big part in the health and well-being of communities in the Selby area, and as we did a few weeks ago, to maintain our presence in Richmond with Richmond Swimming Pool. I think are great commitments by this council. So probably enough from me. When I do move the recommendations, if you don't mind, Leader, I'll actually move them in full, because I think it is very important that whilst this is very exciting, if we don't get a grip on the council's finances with the challenges that we're facing, with the cuts that are being made to our funding from central government, then that may put into question our ability to deliver some of these schemes. So as Gary and Gareth know, one of the great challenges for us in the current climate is to balance the books. So we must do that, but it's important people realise the detail of this is not, we're not just signing a blank cheque. We're not signing a cheque for 40 million quid and saying, well, we'll find it somehow. We have to know that we're in a position to do that. So there's work for all councillors to do in realising the savings that we'll need to make so that North Yorkshire is in a robust position and can deliver for its residents.
Thank you, Simon. We're joined this morning by Joe Ireland, our AD for Culture, Leisure, Archives and Libraries. You must have one of the longest job titles in the council, Joe. So is there anything that you would like to add to Simon's? Well, it was more than an introduction. It was an expose of the strategy.
I think Simon's probably covered the key points.
Okay, thank you. So can I open it up for any discussion and comment, please? Gareth.
Yeah, I think Simon's rather stolen my thunder because he's recognised that all of this is predicated on us getting back to having a sound financial plan that will not be easy to deliver given recent funding intentions by the government and all of that sort of stuff. So I suppose there's two things I'd like to say. The next time any member sits in that chamber and objects to some sort of saving, and you can imagine what I'm referring to without actually saying it, that's non-discretionary. Just look at the goal that we're trying to achieve. It's things like this. It's things like services to vulnerable people, and I will never, ever get tired of saying it. Secondly, the recommendations do give us checks and balances in this. This is not fait accompli, one wallop done by any means. It will have to present at a granular business case because there may well be moving sand in each location. So with that, I thank Simon for his strong reality check on this.
Thank you, Gareth. Mark, please, you're next.
Thank you. I really welcome this. I'd completely take Gareth's points on board. We've got to make sure that we're on a sound financial footing, and candidly, the government's not helping us in that regard and may continue to help us less and less. But this shows a significant investment into leisure centres across North Yorkshire and a number of communities. But speaking as somebody who represents the village just south of Selby, I thoroughly recommend and am pleased to see the further investment into Selby Leisure Centre, and hope to see the residents of my ward and the neighbouring ones make full use of it, enjoy it, and appreciate the fact that this council has put a significant sum of money in here. So strongly support this, Simon, and thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Richard, please. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, we spend eye-watering amounts of money on adult social health, adult services and social health, and we also spend eye-watering amounts on children and younger people services, and this is part of it, really. We do tend to separate things off into different areas as members and officers, but if children can't learn to swim, there's not much point in doing much else. It's a hugely important thing, and this is something that the private sector isn't going to pick up. They aren't going to deliver. And us being able to do it and actually looking at our budgets and how we can move things out of one budget into another to deliver something. And we've got to really start, asking the NHS, I think, on these things, big questions, because part of keeping people fitter and healthier through our leisure centres keeps them hopefully out of hospital and accident, emergency and everything else. So I really do think there still needs to be more joined up thinking on this. Governments keep trying and governments keep failing to do that. And we do need to get that money so it moves around far more than just going into critical care and end of life care and all the difficult stuff when we should have done more sooner. And this is how we can do our bit.
Thank you. Heather, please.
Thank you, Leader. Can I just go a bit further on that, Richard? I was very lucky to be able to talk to someone who's very, very active in their community yesterday evening. She has health issues. She has family caring responsibilities. She keeps community groups going that if we had to step in to do that role, it would be vastly expensive. And she said the thing that keeps her going, keeps her volunteering, keeps her fit, is being able to use one of our pools, which has a slightly higher temperature. And like you say, the private sector are maybe not going to do that. So it just brought to me personally how important these projects will be for the people locally, because I know we have the financial constraints, but last night just helped me put a human face to the investment we're making, and that was very important for me. So I'd just like to say that it's fantastic that we're able to think about doing these things, but yeah, we are constrained. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I haven't got any other hands up in the rooms. Can I now go to the screen, please? Councillor Swanwick, Neil, please.
Thank you, Leader. My contribution will be very brief, thank you. As representative of Whitby Strenshaw, I would like to welcome the investment in Whitby Leisure Centre, although it's not in my ward, unless the boundary changes go through, in which case it will be. It is used by the whole of the town, and the town has a lot of children, and I especially pick up Councillor Foster's point about kids learning to swim. If you live near the coast and you get involved in things to do with the sea, then it's really, really important that you know how to swim. So thank you very much, and I welcome it.
Thank you, Neil, for that contribution. Anybody else then, before I come to Simon to read out the recommendation? Oh, Simon, please.
Yes, thank you, Luda. As I say, I'll move them in full if I may. Firstly, to approve in principle the investment of approximately £36 million in Skipton Leisure and Wellbeing Hub, Whitby Leisure Centre, Rydale Swim and Fitness, Pickering and Selby Leisure and Wellbeing Hub, in accordance with this report, and subject to further detailed work being undertaken to develop the design schemes, business planning and programming. Secondly, the decision on final approval of the proposals for each site, having considered the overall financial position of the council, be delegated to the Corporate Director of Resources in consultation with the Corporate Director of Community Development and the Executive Member for Resources and the Executive Member for Culture, Leisure and Housing. Thirdly, that approval is granted for funding to develop the next stages of the business cases and design works, with funding approval to be delegated to the Corporate Director of Resources in consultation with the Executive Member for Resources and the Executive Member for Culture, Leisure and Housing. And fourthly, which will be a comfort to users of our existing leisure centres across North Yorkshire, approval is granted for investment of up to a maximum of £3 million to replace the furniture, fixtures and equipment, that is gym and fitness equipment, for 12 additional leisure sites across North Yorkshire as a phased programme. So I move those recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please? Richard, thank you. Okay, so let's have a show of hands on this. A large amount of money that we're intending to spend. Okay, so that's hoping to intend to spend. Right. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. We move on then to a less satisfactory position. Simon, can I ask you to introduce this report, item 10, about the findings of the Ombudsman?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I think perhaps without really identifying the particular case in point, this report is prepared as a result of a complaint to the Ombudsman about handling by the council and others, of course, of a disabled facilities grant. One which I think any of us would take the view was the subject of inordinate delay. The Ombudsman's findings identified failings in our processes and recommended a series of remedial actions. We've accepted those findings, and we are implementing a comprehensive action plan to deliver better. It's no comfort, I'm sure, to residents who have been waiting too long for the delivery of some of these facilities, but in national terms, we do fit within the legal timescales. But we don't take the view that that is good enough. And we're very conscious of the Ombudsman's findings. So we've brought together a strategy to deliver better metrics to hold ourselves to account, targets which we will adhere to, and we're underpinning this with putting more resources into the delivery of these facilities. I'm sure many who previously sat on predecessor councils will remember the days when, and certainly Richard and I will remember it, when it took so long to deliver some simple aspects of adaptations that frequently people died in the time that the council, in those days Crowborough District Council, but through partners, had failed to deliver a grab rail. And it was a constant battle to make sure that we did better. And this is an inherited position across North Yorkshire. But this commitment is a genuine one. It is backed, as I say, by more resources. We don't regard what has occasionally happened in the past as to be acceptable at all, and we're determined to do better. So members will see the strategy that we've developed, the target timescales at 4.7 of the report, which are very important that we adhere to them. I would emphasise that the handy person service that we brought in last year, which does the minor adaptations like grab rails, the simple things that can be very important to get somebody out of hospital or out of care. We do those in-house through our handy person service. There is no waiting list, so we're doing that well. We need to be doing everything as well as that. It goes without saying, and members will immediately come on to the fact that the delays that occur in some of these adaptations result in people being kept in hospital and in care for longer. And that's bad for two reasons. One, it's bad for them. And secondly, it's bad for Michael Harrison's budget. And so we have a self-interest in getting this right. It's very important that we do. I think if I could move the recommendations, Leader, that we accept the findings of the Local Government Social Care Ombudsman's investigation into the handing of that specific case, that disabled facilities grant. And I think we will take the view, though not all of our making as a local authority, what happened there was unacceptable. And that we endorse the proposed actions to address the issues raised, including improvement to service delivery, waiting list management, and publishing of target delivery timescales as set out comprehensively in the report.
Thank you, Simon. I'm sure we all regret the need for the Ombudsman's report and its findings, and I'm sure we can all endorse your assurance that there will be improvements in the future. I'm happy to second your recommendation as leader of the council. Now, does anybody want to have any further discussion on it before we move to a vote? No. In that case, can I have a show of hands, please, for the recommendation? Again, that is unanimous. Thank you. And let's move on now to item 11. Heather, please, customer experience strategy.
Customer experience is extremely important for Yorkshire Council. We've got over 600 discrete clients across North Yorkshire, and we need to put their needs first, show an ability to change, understand how their needs change, and adapt our services. This is a piece of work that will affect every single directorate in varying degrees. As with all council services, technology is a tool that we need to get to use to fulfil all of the above. I know AI is a buzzword, but it's not just about artificial intelligence changing and learning. I think we need to do that as a group, as an organisation. So it's going to be, it's going to take a while. This is why it goes to 2030. Hopefully we'll see some results, but it can only be achieved if service areas commit to the cultural change that is needed. I mean, one small change in revenues and benefits meant that reminders weren't sent out by a letter. That's costing £2, but a text was sent. It cost 4p. Obviously, Gareth, you'll probably think that's quite a good result. And we immediately saved £32,000 and, on the other point, increased our revenue collection, which is very important. So imagine as a customer making contact with North Yorkshire and receiving the same level of service, however, whichever channel you use to contact us, because we cannot leave anyone behind. Digital exclusion is still a major issue in North Yorkshire, as connectivity is not as best as it could be. So we need to improve residents' experience when seeking help, because customer experience is the front door for North Yorkshire. You're the initial contact, and if we seem to be wedging that door shut and making it harder for people, then it's not going to improve customer experience. But hopefully, with the new emphasis on consistent, accessible, and responsive and easy communication, then that will be the start to the new journey. And as we build in transformation, we will make savings along the way. But
Thank you, Heather. Anybody got any comments? If not, can we approve the council's customer experience strategy? I'll take nods around the table for that. Okay, still with you, Heather. Anything on the forward plan that we need to note?
I think it's Q2 for our next meeting, so that's going to be quite an important one, as it will inform a lot of decisions going forward. We've got our member champions coming to us and transforming city funds. Hopefully there's a project update which will maybe not as positive as Skipton, but will show progress. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heather. We'll just note the forward plan then. And the final item is any urgent business. I've not been notified of any. So thank you for your attendance this morning and your contributions. Thank you for those who've joined us both on screen and in the room. And with that, I shall close the meeting. Thank you.